Welcome back to my lovely HP community and the 5D collective, and all of those who love to love and love to live and love to laugh and love to learn and not cast stones. So we don't do characterological distinctions or judgments. We know how to use our prefrontal, and we keep learning thanks to mindfulness practices and personal development and self-help. So you be you and I be me, and we're in good company. And when we're with the facades, we know what to do. Nothing. So the ones who do not own their 0 to 8 year old, they don't own their subconscious. We own our 0 to 8 year old, which is why we feel the depths of our emotional plane, and that's why we live a life that is vibrant. So when you are alive, it's thanks to the mental, emotional, and physical mastery that you have gained and that you gain with a whole self, and with self-awareness, accountability, and self-regulation, with healthy self-soothing and self-attuning. So for example, with mindset, the inner growth mindset, unknowns, unexpecteds, unwanteds are dealt from within. You explore with an open heart. Here's my societal culture, here's my psychological, here's my existential, so your human elements, and then if you're spiritual, you also add that. Some of you are also mystics, okay? So this is the part, and when I say spiritual, it's a relationship that you would have with, if you use the word soul. You don't have to. If you are a person who is sciences alone, I'm pseudoscience, remember, but I learned from attachment and trauma educators. So the whole self, when you own the sense of self, you are now the person who's going to lead you. So you have core, narrative, relational, and solo self that are owned, and you know how to handle all emotions and you don't project. Okay, so what living a vibrant life means for 5D mystic who lives the depths of the essence of love and life like me is you own your 0 to 8 year old and your 9 to 16 year old mentally, emotionally, and physically. The plane, when I say emotional plane, I simply mean that which comes up as emotions, and you own that which comes up as sensations, images, and then because you navigate with uncontrolled love towards yourself, but also others, with kindness towards yourself and compassion towards yourself and others, with an inner child functional adult, you're not going to bring into the room reactivity. I learned it organically because I didn't have trauma charges that stayed. I uncharge. And also, emotions to me are not traumatic. But if I had to use the lingo, I can use it. I like anybody else, has the child parts. And they're preserved in icicle, like from those age groups. So I know in my 01 she comes up. Okay, so from the mindfully living and loving perspective, when you're able to be yourself with flaws and integrity, living a vibrant life means owning my 0 to 8 year old, owning my 9 to 16 year old, and experiencing the depths of them as asleep. If there's still stuff that I'm processing, then I'm processing it, not bringing it into the room. From the 5D mystic spiritual living and loving perspective, as you get to be yourself, again with those flaws and integrity, the living a vibrant life means I'm connected to my higher self, which is also a way that the good therapist will tell you once you've healed all your child parts and you have bilateral and vertical integration and you have done sensory motor and somatics, they also will have this higher self that they'll tell you, because you're not leading with your fight response, the 16-year-old, or basically the last of those charges, and really the part that protects you. And so anybody who doesn't move out of the modulated stays with this fight response as their dominant, which is why it's visceral. So we don't do visceral, we do where we're in our prefrontal, we're in a physiological state of compassion, which on machines shows my insula will light up as I'm interacting with you. My amygdala is alerted because I'm near a person and something might need my attention. My temporal junction is what then comes on next, because I'll relate to what's happening based on my past. And here's where the people who ruminate, they stay there and they use the dark sides of neuroplasticity. But then I, since I'm in a physiological state of compassion, move in my prefrontal. And in my prefrontal cortex, my executive decision-making functions are taking in on one side what's happening, and the other side I'm saying this is what I can do or can't do. I will immediately know if there's something I can bring into the table, which is why I'm not burning out, because those who do empathy burn out. Those who do compassion, we don't burn out, because we're mindfully living and loving and spiritually, and this means we're putting into practice a restorative embodiment through the usage of our prefrontal. Mindfulness practices, you focus attention, you can be in complete uncertainty and unknown. That's why the inner growth mindset, again, you go with the flow, open heart, And this is processing the depths of the emotional plane. And it's easy to feel, or it gets easier. And it's easy to think, or it gets easier. So you begin from a place of, I want to do it because you can, with integration of the brain already, bilateral. Child parts all uncharged. So you've done the first step therapy for some. And you're now ready to continue the journey of expanding yourself. So for the ones, again, who are also spiritual, we have this higher self, and we have a connection, in my case, God, source, universe, consciousness, infinity and beyond, dark matter, dark energy. Okay, so people all have a different way that they will be channelers, and that they will talk about experiences. And for me, consciousness, God, universe, source, they all, dark matter, dark energy, come together, but it is different as a relationship, if I have to spell that one out. Although I won't here right now, because really that's more important to my mystics, to those who are only of our spiritual group, not necessarily part of the conversation right now. To live vibrantly is the depth of the relationship with you, and then it's being able to be open-hearted and sharing with another that depth by wanting it. So you want richness and enrichment. Like Sadhguru's quote from today, as he says, it's not the amount of action but the depth of experience that makes life rich and fulfilling. And so when you're with healthy self-worth men, women, and theys, the ones who do what we do, they are going to completely blow your mind away. And Sadhguru, again, as he shares, nothing is predetermined, not even death. Everything has been created by you, though mostly unconsciously. This is a fun one for those of us who own our unconscious, though. Those who do dharma. Those who do karma, it's a different story. We won't, again, talk about it right now. But here's another one. Daniel Siegel. This one's on emotional triggers. So an emotional trigger is where something has happened, either internally or interpersonally or interactively. And here's where, if a person is mindfully aware, they won't bring the trigger into the room without being accountable. They'll bring it. If you point it out, they'll talk about it. If they're a healthy, self-worth human being. If they want to justify their mannerisms, then they will simply allow themselves to do it that way. And for us, it's not. For those of us who are good with not dominating the situation, yes. So being a leader, remember, does not mean dominating a situation. It means empowering people to do what they would not have imagined possible, said Guru. So when a person comes to you and they're in a biologically biological rudeness isn't a choice. Okay, so this is a person who's emotionally triggered, is immediately on a, for me, with all the attachment trauma information, and as a somatic empath and a person who already knew from Jesus and God to forgive and to not say something mean, learned how to do manners and integrity as a teenager. So it's not about self-control. No, it's a choice of what integrity is, which is how I bring myself to you. I will not be ashamed. So I will not be insulting you or be reactive, because that would be, well, I would be not the owner of my 0-1-year-old or my 14-month-old. I would not be the owner of Maria. I would not be the owner of my emotional man. So people think of this as control because they don't know the difference. There's a difference between control and self-mastery, to the point of where you're enjoying, as pure consciousness, by the way, interactions. So I do not find it something that is beautiful to be reactive. No, it's basically, okay, you can learn from this and how not to do it next time, and to empower yourself. As my somatic therapist teachers called it, it's the angry Buddhist. We're just not Buddhists, all of us. So the people who love to be what is equanimous and a true leader will stand in their ventral vagal. And the more you do it, by the way, the more you are completely in a different listening ear with those who have low self-esteem. Because a manipulative, low self-esteem human being, 7 to 14, charming included, they don't manipulate us. We're going to notice every single one of those inconsistencies, and or in time you notice a bunch of things, because everyone's a nervous system one. Everyone's a pattern. I'm a pattern too. So I'm not trying to hide anything of Maria, for example. And the part about being able to be confident will be clear. So again, there's a lot of ways that it's fun to be mindfully living and loving, and to be with people that are that, and spiritually for those of us who are mystics. So we overflow in our humanity. And we love to live and love to laugh and love to learn and love to not cast stones. And that's why we also build invigorating relationships that last a lifetime. And we share depth beyond what words can describe, thanks to owning again a whole sense of self. So I've been adding words because it's a whole sense of self that you own. Otherwise, you're still working with the therapist to get there. So you own a whole sense of self. You own the mind, heart, body of yours in a state of unconditional love and compassion, because you know healthy self-soothing, attuning, regulation. Like when my panic attacks, I know how to begin the journey of rhythmically breathing and not bringing it in. So this is why you expand a window of welcome to the depths of you, and it's not hard for those of us who enjoy the depths of vibrancy. Okay, so yeah, not all people want the emotional plane put back online because they need to first go and get support with that. Being yourself mindfully, spiritually allows you to experience your mental, emotion, physical planes again. So it's the body. It means thoughts, emotions, straightforward. So when something comes up, you're like, I can, and it gets easier because of creating resiliency and using prefrontal. And so with the whole sense of self owned by you, you're choosing secure attachment, you're staying securely attached, you're choosing integration of the brain, core, narrative, relational, soul self. They're all yours, and you don't use they're assholes example. I stopped venting a while back because I'm like, why would I vent? I've been doing this, I get it, but it doesn't feel good and it doesn't do anything. I don't want to use my brain this way. I don't want to use my emotions this way. Nobody helped me because they said, you're not Jesus or Buddha. You're human. I was like, it's because I'm human. And I was like, I wasn't bringing in Jesus or Buddha, but they were human too. And today, when I heard Sadhguru say, you can be me, you can be Jesus, you can be Buddha, I was like, yeah, because any one of us can be in a restorative embodiment by choice, by choosing to bring yourself home to all your child parts, uncharge them, integrate your brain, non-reactive. And that is by not only therapy for those who need it, but it's through our relationships. So when you get non-reactive with a person who's reactive, you're giving them an opportunity to feel the different feeling. I won't treat you like your toxic, unhealthy, self-soothing parent did, or parents, or anybody else who you might have met. I'm going to treat you with respect because my ventral vagal state is going to stand, and I'm not going to judge you characterologically. So you're going to feel a very different feeling, and it's also going to feel off. And it will be perceived as, could be perceived as cowardice, pretend, could be perceived as many things. But I'm going to give you a different way to feel. If you take it because you recognize the opportunity, that's something completely beautiful when it happens. But if you don't, then nothing really happens. But in the meantime, I've diffused the situation because I didn't get aggressive or defensive. So that's the part. That is why the 5D collective consistently will bring harmony into any room they go, because I'm a safe haven, secure base for Maria. And so as long as my gut knows there's no physical threat, I can have you doing whatever the fuck you want. I'm going to not be triggered. If I am, I'm going to learn from it, like I did a while back. There's a word that triggered, but I was able to completely have information that I was looking into. It's a side note. So tapping into that infinite higher human consciousness potential experience is because of daily mindset, mindfulness, and mindsight practices, and your desire to be in that restorative embodiment and whole sense of self. Okay, so you want to own your mind, heart, body, self. So not everybody wants to achieve this. They don't all want to live in their higher human consciousness, emotional, mental, and physical intelligence potential. Some are good with having half a brain because the left is what they're leading with, and the right just comes up whenever they get triggered. That's why people live adaptive child behavior. They don't want to experience the social engagement state consistently. It's why they follow the ones who tell them, those bad therapists, they're talking to you about compassion and not shaming people. How dare they? And they don't understand the word shaming from the neurobiological, neuroscientific, and mental health community, because the shaming is a posture. So while we will, of course, give each other ways to be of integrity, shaming the posture and reassuring a child after you've yelled at them once they've listened to you is how you help to give them a lesson. So yes, you can say no, but there's ways that you will want to dress that they did a good job once they've listened to you, so that you don't humiliate, that you don't create a rupture and a fragment. And these individuals who think that it's not a big deal are the same ones who got treated like that. So they're okay with disregarding emotional sensitivity because they didn't get it. which is why they want to perpetuate transgenerational trauma, all the charges, everything, and that's the modulated embodiment. They won't be successful because the sciences proves something about one, well-being, but two, your body's birthright is, FYI, it's not even about proof. This is where I actively am like, they're just idiots, because the embodied brain, when you look at it and you get enough information that explains to you neurobiology, neuroscience, the mental health, your embodied brain is seeking to be its optimized version. You don't have to believe it. I personally know it's true because of being in the restorative embodiment, but also, again, God. Every one of us being a child of God, what do you think? God wanted you to have hell in your body? Hell is the trauma shit that people don't get healed. It's not even funny, by the way. When you got, I'm going to side note, we're going to have another episode later, but whenever I see Cusco's out there making it something of a mission of theirs to let us know about their lack of emotional availability and their torture, I'm just thinking, okay, you know what? Drag that pain point a little bit around. How many medals do you want for the golden chest that you got? You didn't do anything different than just what? Nothing. Like the Zen master. You're just mouth. And the only reason you're just mouth is because you're not learning how to use your prefrontal to have what is an objective conversation. Shit happens. Yeah, I feel deeply. I'm going to go hang out and have some good time because my life is precious. I got 24 hours. Why would I spend it ruminating? The 3-year-old matters, though. Those first 3 years of life. So if you are not somebody who wants to groovy kind of love, that's your sign. You didn't have a child-centric environment. If gooey ooey makes you that's the sign. And that's the first opportunity for anybody to say, okay, I won't hide this from me. I'm going to go get EMDR, chop parts work, and somatics because it's my well-being. I want to be in the kindness that I was deserving. It's really scary at the end of the day, though, how far anybody wants to take personal development, well-being, and healing, that stuff. It is a choice. It's not a must. As long as people follow the rules and laws, so they don't have to count the ways that they love each other. We do. Secure attachment, functional adults. That's how we love. So it's unconditional. You be you, I be me. You be mindful. Maybe not. I will. You have flaws. I'll have flaws. We'll have integrity together. And therefore, what other people say about us won't matter. But what we will feel about ourselves matters. And we won't do anything that will be something we would be ashamed of. Which is we won't be unkind and reactive to person and or people who don't know how to make it happen, because we will be making it happen, that we have secure attachment, safe haven, secure base. I don't need to get in your face. My non-reactivity is going to be me, mindful, loving, and with integrity, showing to you that I know love, laughter, I know ease, and whatever you do isn't going to be of my concern, because that ego, by the way, didn't mean to be in the little defensiveness state that people don't realize. So vibrancy is not felt when you're not getting a relationship with the depths of your emotional plane. You're going to have triggers, and triggers can be worked on by people who do self-regulation, self-attunement, and self-soothing with mindfulness in the forefront. So again, with our lovely Sadhguru, we'll close on out. Nothing is predetermined, not even death. Everything has been created by you, though mostly unconsciously. So he shares some more about this. He says, the problem is you create most of it unconsciously. So what we've created. And then he says, you think it is being heaped upon you from somewhere else, which is the problem. Instead, if you can create something unconsciously, he says, you can also create it consciously. And that is the whole effort of all spiritual processes, to see that you create your life consciously instead of blundering through it by creating it unconsciously. I'm going to say one step further is it's fun to have our unconscious and conscious in alignment. So it's not just with yoga. Yoga is a ventral vagal portfolio of toning exercises. Mindfulness and meditation support integration. You taking ownership of your whole self, and I'm a human, overflowing in that which is you. So again, toxic parents, they see their children as selfish adults who are making choices at their expense. Patrick Tiahan, don't bring around those toxic parent habits. And another Sadhguru quote, it is not the amount of action, but the depth of experience that makes life rich and fulfilling. Michael PhD, the greatest source of strength in your life is your greatest vulnerability. This one is really beautiful when I think about it. For those of us who own our vulnerability, we're not afraid of being vulnerable. That we're going to talk in a little bit. Rick Hansen, PhD, a lot of people underestimate the gradual impact of little things adding up over time in your childhood. That's the people who don't understand how, when here's Patrick, my parents did the best they could, he crosses it out, see a hand, they refuse to look at themselves. So when I see people that refuse to look at themselves and at the fact that they have cold mannerisms because they got raised by the toxic parents that didn't know how to be regulated, it's a perpetuation of cycles, but we are not going to have them become aware of it by getting in their face. And actually, I've heard people say, "Oh, just wish them that they heal." I don't need to wish somebody. That's disrespectful. There's information online for them to understand. I don't believe anybody to be dumb in the way of I won't understand what a smart neuroscience mental health professional explains to me, because I've learned, and I learned from a bunch of them, and they are bountiful and have very down to earth language. Bezel van der Kolk, as long as your brain is geared to being scared that somebody's going to hurt you, you are always on the defensive. So anyone who wants to allow themselves to justify their distancing humans, their distancing of relationships, their distancing of emotions, and basically ignore that they lack depth, it's a person who's not ready for it. And they don't have to be. In the meantime, we are definitely a collective, at least here at IHP, that we care about bringing healthy functional adult relationships with an inner child. So we have fun and new stories that heal trauma for those who want it. So again, healthy self-worth. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. We got some romance on the table. Meantime, thank you for stopping by. Like, share, and subscribe if you know other people who want to hear about self-empowered life, mindfully living, spiritually living, and mystic in the 5D plane. Let them come on over. And again, we're here with spiritual self-help, mindful living, and loving stories. I am, and it's an honor, and it's so great to know that the future is going to be all 5D. So yes, we still have 3D, 4D, and suffering, but they won't be consistently here in that way, because the thing about ego and anybody who basically is blind and deaf is so I'm going to put it this way: dark matter, dark energy. I'll do science. I'm not a great person in the knowledge of all science, but God, I love you. You know that. God always is God. The creator doesn't ever get dismantled. But that's why, to me, dark matter, dark energy, or God, I'm going to say I know they continue to allow life to happen. And heaven is in the body, first of all. So a healed human being who has kindness, love, and forgiveness like Jesus walked. And it's the restorative embodiment. And I have the living experience of it for me. Okay, so I bring to you something I experienced, not just something I mentor and teach or chit-chat about. And I didn't expect to know all the things I knew that bring me to simply knowing what I knew as a teenager. And I didn't expect to get clairs, which I love, and twin flames and polyamory and just everything. I didn't expect that being yourself was so much more in depth than simply mindset. And that mindfulness I've been doing my entire life, as well as mindset. So I have new words, but these are things I've embodied doing since I was little. I've been aware. That's why owning my 8-year-old, she's always here. I didn't ever disconnect from any part of me. And that's also why determined. I can bring in determined. I can know scientifically why Maria has been determined without any problem in saying I don't believe. No, I'm saying I can have both be here. And if somebody would want to tell me another story about humanity, I can listen to them and still know who I am. Like I know that nobody can manipulate me unless they're in my circle. And people are smart. They know that. I chose that on purpose. Meaning, if I'm going to let you in my circle, I'm going to trust you. And the reality is I'm not afraid of you because you won't physically attack me, because I will make sure of staying physically safe. Other than that, you mean just use your words. This is that type of stuff that a person who's a healthy, securely attached individual doesn't feel threatened by having fights with people, meaning differences, meaning ashamed of me. Okay, but anyways, dark matter, dark energy, God, as I was trying to bring to you another thing, and the planet. The planet is a globe, right? So we have geophysicists and geology, all those sciences. And the earth is vibing at a frequency which space science can talk to us all about. Now, if you want to tell me reality doesn't exist at all, well then, I mean, again, this is the part of why we got all these groups saying, but I can say space weather affects our globe. Neil deGrasse, I was watching him the other day, something about space and weather. And so the ego of the 4D, they continue to create 144,000 special ones. 144,000 are the twin flames. It's not about the twin flames not being, they are. And it's not about the chosen one, not, there's not, but this is the part. The chosen ones is not the word to be used. That number, they also take it from places, and they also take it from stories. So I'm going to leave that one and just all of it to the side. Not to say it's not true. It's a subjective reality. It's a subjective story. It's anything that we read and put together can become a truth. But what I'm trying to say is the bodies that are here are not what are having the earth anchor in this frequency. The higher frequency can be looked at from how space weather affects our planet, starting from our sun. And we're adapting to it. And the idiots who don't understand what the restorative embodiment is, and I say idiots because they are idiots, because your trauma charges are stored in your muscles, bones, and tissues. Thank you, Peter Levine. And because they will come up, because your body is wanting to be whole and healed because it's smarter than the left mode that chit-chats. So the only idiots are the ones who keep suppressing it. And actually, when ascension energies are about, it's always very clear to me what's going on. And when some are still doing karma, they're going to be fine, but their body's not adapting to the frequency, and they're not processing the emotional depth and living more vibrantly or any of that. But it's not something good or bad. It just is. And that's why determined with Robert can also be. But the point is that our bodies adapt to the planet, not the other way around if I really have to. But ego will make it about ego. Insecure people or people who need a reason, because in the absence of a reason for why I live, and here's existential psychologist, and here's the part of why a person won't go here if they are not able to sit into the unknown, which is where I can sit just as easily as can pie, because I've been presently aware of this unknown since I was a kid, and every day when I wake up. So mortal, we are all. And when you appreciate the biggest gift I have is life from here, you're going to make the best of every day. It's not painful when you are a person who has the capacity to say, I want it to be true that there's this afterlife, but I'm not 100% sure it's true. I don't deny it exists. I can sit in two opposites and know, well, neither are irrefutable facts, because 97% of what is out there is unavailable to scientists. And so spirituality we already knew, philosophy we already knew, there's the scientists who also don't know everything. And ergo, we can continue our lovely chit-chat in our next episode. In the meantime, again, thank you for stopping by. If you do enjoy self-help, personal development with mindfulness, living, and loving practices, join us, because when the tiers are open, we'll have a bunch of that. Reiki Master right here, Akashic Record Reader, woo-woo lady I am for those of you who don't believe, but please do respect. It's not woo-woo to those of us who are mystics. Of course, you don't have to, again, do any of... no praising, any of that. That's something that the 5D collective, we're all special. We're all, it's not even about chosen. We are all here by chance. Where are you, Neil deGrasse? Neil deGrasse. He shares, I think there's like 100 billion total and 1 billion trillion odds that you could have been born and is reborn in the genetic code numbers. And he says, even if you showed up in the genetic code, it wouldn't be exactly you. He says, we've done this with genetic twins, and I'm a twin, okay? So different fingerprints, different personalities. And this is something I was watching, but being born and the probability of you being here is really small. And so he says we should treat life as the most cherished thing on earth, and not enough people do. And he's science. It's the same thing when God told me about cherishing, right? Or us. So science and spirituality share. It's a miracle that we're here. People who need more than just that, well, I mean, again, they're going to keep having it, but point is, let's make the best of this lifetime. And so living vibrantly from the depths of you. It's a journey that is beautiful for those who love emotions and thoughts, for those who have a challenge at first, good therapy, and then they can choose if they want to continue, or they can go to that Zen master and do laundry. In the meantime, thanks again for stopping by. Have a good one.